Hey everyone, I'm Crystal Jagrup, the founder of Book of Bijou, a line of chic and innovative jewelry storage. And in 2021, we expanded into our Empowered by Women platform to create a centralized space to really focus on our mission of women empowerment and community over competition. It really truly does fill my cup to be surrounded by all of you incredible women entrepreneurs. You guys fuel me with so much more motivation to continue doing what I'm doing. And your energy that you bring to me and our platform on a daily basis is truly unmatched. So, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for being here with me today. Before we jump into the episode, please make sure that you are subscribed and following us on whichever platform you're tuning in with us today, and sharing your favorite episodes with your fellow business babes or female founders so we can continue growing our platform and furthering our mission. All right, let's jump into the next episode with another incredible woman in business that I know you guys are going to absolutely love. Today we're chatting with Katrina Marsh, the owner of Busy Bee Yoga Studio in Dixon, California. She's also the co-founder of Maganda Media Management. And this girl is 22 years old, killing the game. But Katrina, I am so excited to be chatting with you today. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here and be a part of all of the great things that you're doing.
I am so excited to dive into your story. So, give us all the juicy details. Like, what is your background and how did that path lead you to opening up Busy Bee Yoga Studio?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think a lot of my business background, honestly, I think it started when I was super young. My sister and I created kind of like a girls club. It was called Daring Girls Club. And we were really involved with community. We wanted to be doing, fundraisers and things like that. But we found ourselves gearing towards like business prospects, like lemonade stands, raking people's yards, walking their dogs. For a birthday or Christmas one year, my grandparents even got me like business cards that said, Katrina Enterprises, no job too small. And so like I was really kind of business minded from a young age. And that kind of translated into my education. I studied business, but really I was always in the legal field. So I kind of like loved all realms. And then as far as like my personal life, I really tied in, yoga to everything. I had it in my daily life to curb stress, to bring in some physical fitness, some exercise. And then it wasn't until 2020 that I got my teacher certification, which I never intended to teach with. It was just to kind of deepen my practice. But, little did I know I'd be creating a whole career business out of it.
My sister, who is also named Katrina, is also in the fitness industry. And I think she kind of started the same way. So she does Legree. And she really fell in love with her Legree practice in San Francisco. And she was like, let me get my teacher credentials or whatever it is. And then she opened up her own studio. So you guys are kind of on the same path. But I love that your entrepreneurship kind of stems as a child. Did you say that were your parents also entrepreneurs?
Yeah, so my mom has a big passion for coffee, as probably most of us do. But she's a coffee brewer, and her and my dad actually opened a coffee shop when I was really young. And then she kind of translated that into more of like a subscription service and an online business. But that was always a big part of my childhood, was being a part of their business. And then even now, my mom is my sounding board, like everything. I'm just like, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? I want to give. I want to just be like free classes for everybody, free everything, because I'm just all about like, I love people, I love relationship building. And so she's kind of a good sounding board of like, okay, the business aspects of it though, let's wind it back. So yeah, it comes from the family as well.
That's so funny that you say that because I'm absolutely the same way. And I like love giving away free things. And I've
Yeah.
even like mentioned it because I gave something free to someone and I was like, I know I really need to stop doing that. And they were like, no, keep
Right.
doing it because it's gonna come back to you like tenfold. But I'm 100% same way. Like community, it's like so different when you can surround yourself by such an incredible community. And it just like keeps pushing you to move forward and you just want to keep giving back to them, right?
Exactly. I think it's more value to me. It's more valuable than, good sales that month, which I mean, it's great. And, that's what makes a really good business owner, is creating a very profitable business. But to me, we've had this opportunity to grow a community. especially a yoga community in a city that didn't have any kind of yoga presence in it. And that's kind of the most valuable part to me, is being able to connect with the people that are coming in, and catch up on, how was the dog's vet appointment, and like, oh yeah, last week you told me you had an interview, how did that go? I love the people.
So tell us about like the kind of switch in your mind that you're like, okay, I wasn't planning on doing this. I wasn't planning on opening a studio, but now that I have my teacher credentials, like, we're gonna do this. What changed in your mind and what made you make that decision?
So getting the teacher certification was, more of something that kept me grounded in a very chaotic time in my life. And that was just, a great experience in itself. And I didn't really see any point in building on top of that. But, I was working a 9 to 5 job as a legal assistant. And, I kind of had an inkling, like I knew in the back of my mind that I wanted to do something more. I wanted to create something. And I honestly had conversations all the time, like, I love business, I want to run a business, but what kind of business could I even create? And I actually came up with the idea to create more of like a virtual yoga studio. So I wanted to film yoga videos and offer guided tutorials on YouTube or other platforms for people to follow along with. And that's where the name Busy Bee Yoga came from, actually. So my boyfriend, huge driving force behind this whole thing, but he came up with the name because the idea is, yoga for the busy people. So it was going to be like little clips that people could follow along with and fit into their day at any point. And then once we got the opportunity to move into this small available space in my hometown, Dixon, that's when we're like, okay, let's shift gears from a virtual yoga studio to a physical one. And, it's a lot scarier because you're teaching live, you're teaching people, you can't go back and like edit. And so it was really nerve-wracking to like teach my first class. My first class was in, the studio that we built. And it was a learning experience. Every class was a learning experience, but that was kind of the transition of going like, I want to create something. I have this skill set. Let's push it together. And then, opportunities come about where we can make it even bigger than I thought.
Are you still working in your legal assistant job?
No, not currently.
How long did it take you from inception of the Busy Bee Yoga Studio to leaving that job?
So inception of the Busy Bee Yoga brand to leaving it, I never really planned to leave it once I came up with like the virtual part of it. But I was at this specific law firm in particular. I was there for a little under 2 years. And then it wasn't the healthiest environment. I want to say it was great. The business was ran well. But you really kind of just felt like a number. You felt like, just a little tiny part in the big machine. And so I think that was just kind of the time where I was like, I could be doing more. I can create something else. And then, once I created the website and we published, we were going to have our first class. I remember I fell asleep after publishing the website, and we did a little posting and marketing and, let the word out, but I fell asleep. And then I woke up to like 150 notifications. Like, people were visiting the website. We had a bunch of people booking the classes for that week. And I was like, oh, I did something. Like, I did this.
That is incredible. And we're going to dive into like whatever your marketing secrets are. But okay, so were you like, I mean, you had just started with the studio when you left your job. So were you in a place where you felt like, I'm financially okay to do this, and even if I'm not successful with the studio for a few months or whatever the case may be, like, I will be fine? Like, was it really just like a leap of faith? Or like, were you very confident and you were in a good place with the studio or with the virtual classes at least to make that leap? Because I know a lot of times entrepreneurs are kind of like constantly wondering, like, when is it okay to leave my job and focus full time on my hobby or my small business?
Right. Yeah. No, so I think it sounds kind of crazy now thinking about it, but it really was kind of a leap, and kind of a leap of faith. Yeah. I mean, I felt like I was in a place where I had support I needed to make a transition. And, I wasn't living luxurious at all. I was pretty much just kind of living off of what I made. And our first classes for a while were donation based, which, funny enough, we were making way more sales when they were donation based than we did when we actually put a price on it. But, you know, it was interesting to transition from, you know, a regimented job and then go into this thing where it's like everything, you know, you earn is based off of what you put into it, you know, times 10, because you're working a lot behind the scenes before just the one class that's making, you know, the money. And so I was kind of, you know, in a pretty good enough standing point where I could make that transition and leap into making this project. And yeah, it was a little scary, but you know, my family, my friends, you know, they are so supportive of me. So once I was able to kind of get into that space, and then, you know, the ball started rolling.
It's interesting that you said that you were making more money when it was more donation based, and that kind of goes to the psychology of how people spend their money. And it really is interesting to see, like, people are more generous when you're not asking for anything, whereas if you put your
Oh,
price point to it, you're like, well, I'm not going to pay more than I need to. So
yeah,
that's interesting point. So you started opening your actual physical location when COVID was kind of starting to simmer down a little bit, right?
exactly.
So it was the Busy Bee yoga studio, but what were people's lives like then? I mean, people were still kind of like in the middle of we're stay-at-home moms, or we haven't been working and things like that. So what was that transition like from virtual to the physical location? Were you still heavily getting more traffic towards all of your virtual classes? Was there really a demand for your physical classes? And how did you do that in
Yeah.
the middle of COVID, or like towards the end of it? I don't even know if we're really at the end of it because obviously COVID still exists, but how did you do it?
Yeah. So funny enough, I never got the virtual part of it off the ground in that period of time. It really was a pretty fast kind of pace of being like, this is my idea. Oh, now we have a spot. Okay, let's transition. And so I think for, you know, opening on the come down from COVID, you know, more or less, it was hard to navigate in the sense that I didn't want anybody to feel unsafe, and I didn't want anybody to feel uncomfortable with, you know, having a group fitness class. So we did have virtual options as far as zooming in, so people can like watch the live stream of the class. So what we did for that was we had virtual and in-person options for every class. And then we also had the option to do virtual if you originally booked in person, but then last minute you're like, maybe I, you know, should just stay home. You know, like I went to a concert last weekend. I think I'm just going to stay home. And that kind of helped us avoid any cancellations, like last minute cancellations. So people could really practice at home, or they could practice in the studio, which our original location was so small. It was so small. So having the virtual aspect was actually a huge help for us as well, because we have an unlimited classroom and then we have our small little classroom. So we never really had to cap it out. But virtual is kind of a preference. Some people don't really like it. So we wanted to keep that option for people that had it. And then I think the biggest thing that helped us as well was just creating a very clean and comfortable space for people to have their yoga practice in. So I would always kind of post, you know, open up the studio with me and show like our sanitization, close down the studio with me, show our sanitization. We got a really nice air purifier. We had masks if people wanted to wear those for our classes. And you know, we pretty much cleaned top to bottom after every class, so that if we were using any props like blocks or, you know, loaner mats, that people weren't like, oh, like, is this safe to be on? And then that was, but we were really fortunate to be opening it at that time, because I think most of the people were itching to get out of their house. They were like, we want something, we want to do something outside. And I was like, we're here.
Right. Absolutely. It was a tricky situation because people did want to come out, but then, we had to be mindful of other people. And I think you handled it beautifully, and being able to offer both the virtual and the in-person sessions for every single class, giving kind of like the best of both worlds. I think your marketing has been genius, and showing those little clips of like how you're sanitizing everything. It reminds me of when I saw videos like that of like restaurants, and people wanted to go to those restaurants more because they knew they could trust that they were clean. So all of that genius. But you said when you launched your website, you got like 150 notifications or whatever the next day. So tell us about the genius behind the website. How did you market that? Like, did you already have a platform?
So no, the website was brand new, and I put my heart and soul to. So I created my website by myself, and I still get compliments on it, and I'm like, you don't know how much that means. Like, I did so much work behind that, so thank you. Because people be like, it's so beautiful, and I'm like, thank you. So yeah, I took the time to really set up a website that kind of like follows the psychology of, like the mind of people that are coming to the website. There's, a button right on the homepage that's like book a class. And then, if people are scrolling, kind of exploring the website, they'll find like our story, they'll find, some of the products that we offer. We have boutique hours for shopping because we have like a little retail portion. And so the website, I really wanted it to be very user friendly. We also have like an app version of it, so people can download the app and book from there. Um, but yeah, so once we got the website up, marketing for it, the most successful, tidbit I can give is find local Facebook groups. When I posted that we are offering yoga in like a Dixon, it's called Dixon 411. So I posted in the Facebook group, and people, that are scrolling, they're like, wait, what? People that you've never met that aren't directly following you, they're seeing that and they're like, wait, okay. So every event that I posted to, local Facebook groups like that are reaching people in my direct area, has been the most helpful, because I don't have a product. I don't have, purchase it online, get it shipped to you. I have a service. So it's difficult to, go to things like vendor events where people are selling products and making sales right then and there, so having the local Facebook groups and groups in general to spread the word about your services that you're offering, it's super helpful.
I think that's a great tip because I think people are so heavily focused on like Instagram and TikTok that Facebook these days is frequently overlooked. So
Yeah.
love that tip. Do you have a professional marketing background? I know you're a legal assistant, but do you have a professional marketing background, or is this something that you've kind of just been like naturally adept in?
More the latter. I've done courses here and there to further my own knowledge. I do my own research and kind of like personal education. But really, when I noticed how much of opening a business is being on your phone, I was pretty shocked. And then I was, there's a lot of small business owners around me, and they were having the same issues where it's like I just spend so much time for one post, for one video, for one whatever piece of content, and who knows if that's going to translate to sales or not. So that's where my other business, Maganda Media Management, that I run with my business partner James Young, we were coming at it from two different directions. So he's a pretty established photographer, and I love the organization of media management, posting schedules, and all the nitty gritties behind it. And so we actually met because I was proposing my services to a client, saying like, I can run your management, but I don't do much content creation. Like, I can come in, I don't have any professional equipment, but I'm really good with the digital art. But if you guys are getting content, you give it to me, I can manage your media. And then they were also hiring him to get the content. And they were like, you guys should meet and, figure out how you guys can package your business. And, so we actually ended up having a conversation, like, how can we package our services to give these, services to clients that are looking for it? And then we were able to kind of duplicate what we did for all of our future clients moving forward. So, the marketing and media management portion of it, in the beginning was definitely trial and error. It was, okay, flyers and business cards. Okay, that works sometimes. Paid Instagram and Facebook ads, that works sometimes. But for both myself and James, we're service based. So we really need people like in our local area to be able to service. So that was, that's kind of my background, I guess, for the management side of it for marketing.
Yeah, I was going to bring up your Maganda Media Management. So first of all, are either of you Filipino?
So James actually came up with the name, and so it translates to beautiful, because the
Right.
entire idea behind the name was that, we're creating something beautiful. Every post that we create, we're creating something beautiful to share with their audience. So
Is he
yeah,
Filipino?
I think I think I should probably know this, but I need to double check. I think so. He came up with, the name for it. My sister traveled to the Philippines, and she absolutely loved it over there. And so we kind of bond. I was talking to James about that, and we kind of bonded on that. And he was like, "Well, honestly, I've had this name for this business, but I don't have a business to put under it." And so he was like already dead set on that name. And I was like, "It's perfect."
Well, I'm Filipino, so I love the name.
When you pronounce the name for the business, I was like, yeah, because I get a lot of is this Maganda Media Management? And I was like, yep, that's us.
So you've had a handful of clients now. So can you tell us about some of the more common mistakes or struggles that you've seen with your clients, and what steps you've taken to improve that kind of media or marketing side of things?
Yeah. So for our student pool, it has been very insightful as to what the trends are for humans, I guess. So it's like, if people are all grouping to one class, I'm like, that is a good class. If people are all grouping to, or not coming to another class, then it's kind of insightful to be like, oh, okay, that's not a very popular time or a popular class style or whatever the case may be. So we've done a lot of in the beginning, it was a lot of guess and check, like here's the schedule. And then once we see what's popular, we would, change it around a little bit and then market based off of what's popular. And, things like special events and running promotions, those are always big hitters. Like anything that's new, people want to see. And so we've been able to really test the market in our original location before we expanded to our current location, as far as if this was even something that people wanted in the community or if it would be appreciated. And once we saw the response from the community, we were like, okay, this is something, like let's expand, let's get some more space so we can get some more people in. But it's been a big learning experience all the way through, and we're still learning, what do people prefer, what do people want, and what are the exciting bits that people kind of flock to. So for example, we have like essential eye oil, like, or essential oil eye towels that we use at the end of our hot vinyasa classes. So in like our shavasana, like our final resting pose, we'll go around and put like these cold towels on the eyes. And I always thought it was just kind of like a cherry on top, but I had somebody that was like, I'm like, I don't want to go to class, but then I remember the eye towels and I'm like, I'm there. So it's about finding like the little things that people like and then really highlight them. So I was posting that on my media. I was like, come relax, get your cold eye towels at the end. And then once you're able to kind of market based off the things that people actually like and not what you just think that they like, that will bring in traffic.
That's such a great point, and I'm glad you bring that up because I think a lot of times entrepreneurs are so focused on what they want to be the star idea or the star product, and they aren't putting enough effort into the community response. And they're not paying attention to all those little things, like you said, that your community is coming in and loving and responding to. And you entrepreneurs, absolutely, we need to be able to kind of like shift our focus and realize what is working and what's not versus just what we want to work and what our original idea or vision was for our business. So that's such a great tip. But clearly you've had so much success. You're already opening up your second location. You opened up your first one in 2020 or 2021?
So we opened it up in 2021, and we actually moved. So it's our second location, but it's an upgrade for sure, but
Okay.
it's more of an expansion. So we used the first location to test the market, kind of see, how it was going to work. Learned a lot of stuff from that first location. And then once we expanded, we found a vacant commercial space right across the street. So it was just beautiful. Like, I'm in it right now. I really love like the space. So once we came in here, we're like, yep, this is the space we want to be in. So it was just, everything worked out.
It is gorgeous. I was looking at the pictures on Instagram and I was like, I love this. It's like so unique. It's not your typical yoga studio, and it feels very like homey. Like you just want to come and like hang out.
Oh my
So
gosh. So when we were renovating it, actually, it's funny that you say it's not your typical yoga studio. So we're renovating it, and we're the floors are black, and we have like this concrete kind of style on the walls. And when I'm trying to explain this vision to people, they're like, oh no, you don't want to do that. You want concrete walls and black floors. Like, do you want it to feel like a jail cell? And I was like, no, like I have this specific vision in mind. And I really had to fight each point of the things that I wanted to do. Like, I don't know why, but I couldn't get my vision across. And so then finally, a day before we had our grand reopening, finally, that's when people were like, oh, like this does look good. I see it. I see it. And I was like, well, thank goodness.
Well, it does really look good. And I'm all for like the kind of like moodier palette for like interior decorating. So I'm all for it. I support your vision 100%. So going back to the community response, like obviously you used Facebook, like you already mentioned, and you had this really overwhelming community response with your grand reopening. Did a lot of your success in marketing also involve like user generated content? Were people just like blasting your studio on social media and things like that?
Yes, absolutely. UGC was huge. User generated content was huge for the grand reopening. It was, I put little a little clip when we had a year, being open, of like all the screenshots I had taken because we were getting posted and reposted and reposted and reposted. And then those people were reposting and those people were seeing it. And it was this crazy snowball effect of now this picture of, my logo or this picture of me in front of the studio is on everybody's Instagram account. And it was a huge help in getting attendance for the grand reopening, and which then translated to attendance for our classes. But a lot of the support came from surrounding businesses, which I am in such an amazing community for running a small business. They're so supportive here. They have so many great resources, and the majority of the businesses down here are ran by women. And a lot of them were just so supportive in the grand opening specifically too. I had totally underestimated, even just like the sales that we were going to make that day. I was like, oh, people will buy a juice or, a scrunchie or something. I didn't even get like shopping bags, like to put things in. And then I had the owner of a few doors down, Rosemary's Cafe. It's like a farm to fork cafe. She ran down here and she was like, here's a stack of bags. You're going to need them. And she was so right. We literally didn't have any bags by the end of the day. And I was like, oh, okay.
That's incredible. And this is why I love women in business because the energy and the support is like on a whole other level and it is unmatched. So I'm so grateful for your community, for you. Like that's incredible to be surrounded by those kind of women. But let's get into the reality of things also. So what have been like your biggest obstacles? And you're so young too. You're only 22 years old. So tell us about any obstacles, even if with your age, like people underestimating you or things like that. Anything that you've had to deal with in your journey thus far.
Yeah. I know it's kind of, it's difficult. It's frustrating. Let me just say that. It's frustrating when you can tell a certain energy shifts when they realize, you're the business owner. Like, okay, can I talk to somebody higher up? And I'm like, oh, there's not much higher you can go. There's no higher you can go. And so, I still get it to this day where people will come in, they'll just be like, oh, okay, like very nice. Like, here's this flyer for this event. Can you give this to the owner? And in the beginning, I created this phantom owner because I was like, yeah, I'll pass this along. Because I was like, you know what, if they're going to take me the business more seriously by thinking there's somebody higher up, then I will give that to them. But then, I think the people that come to the classes and really see the passion I have for my business and creating this space, it makes sense to them that, this is my project, because they're like, there's no other reason why she, devotes so much time and energy into this space. So, I think it was frustrating being not taken seriously as, somebody coming in the door with a business prospect, a collaboration idea, and them just being like, oh, can I speak to somebody else? And I was like, oh, there's nobody else. And then honestly, one of the biggest, I was debating on whether or not I wanted to touch on this, but one of the most frustrating kind of experiences I came across was on the media management business side of it. So James and I, there was a client that, we vet our clients pretty closely. We have a process for onboarding. We do a few consultations, get everything set up before we really kind of like sign contracts and really get going. So there was this client and we had a few meetings, and I could tell that, if I spoke, they were directing their attention to James. If they asked a question, they'd expect James to answer. If, I was even talking, like, just they were not paying attention to me. And I was like, you know what, I can hold it back. That's fine. Like, I don't have to be around them to do my job, fortunately, because I'm kind of the behind the scenes person. But on one of our final interviews, I couldn't make it, and so, or consultation meetings, I couldn't make it, so James ran it himself, and it was very unfiltered from what I heard. And there was a lot of like, do we really need her? Like, maybe she could just be in the background of our videos, maybe she could just be a fluffer. And I was just shocked. I was like, wow. And that was a big point for building so much trust and respect for my business partner, because in that moment, he was like, this isn't going to work. I'm sorry. Like, you don't understand that this is like, she is a huge part of this business, and you can't be saying those kinds of things when she's not here. And so we decided to not take on that client. But yeah, even though it didn't happen to my face, that is the kind of things that, female owned businesses have to deal with things behind the scenes and to your face. So that was a very frustrating experience, but you learn from it and you become stronger because of it.
I'm so glad that your partner backed you on that and that you are not working with that client. But yes, 100% I agree. But even especially as a younger entrepreneur, you really need to kind of just hold your ground and claim your authority and let it be known. Absolutely. So I'm glad you started doing that and got rid of the phantom owner, and you took ownership yourself, which is absolutely something that you should be doing. So what would be like your best tip or two for other entrepreneurs getting started, especially with our younger generations?
Yeah, I think that, being a female business owner is, we face, a few struggles in itself, but being a young female business owner, it kind of added a level of, not really getting the respect, sometimes not getting the respect that, I felt I was entitled to. And, I don't walk around being like, I'm a business owner, but sometimes when, we're going into a business meeting or something, it feels good to be taken seriously. It feels good to, have that credibility behind you. And so when that's recognized by, whoever's sitting across from you, that means so much. So it's really opened my eyes to other business owners and, other people, creating a business behind their passion, and really giving respect where respect's due, and an applause where applause is due.
Again, that just goes back to why I love this space so much and why I love surrounding myself with all of these women in entrepreneurship, because it is more give than take. And you recognize how many more opportunities that opens up for you. So absolutely just going into it with an open mind, with respect, and with the want to just encourage others to do it. Love that. So before we end off, where can all of our listeners, our viewers, find you and your studio and your media management company?
I know, lots of links, but on Instagram and our website, it's going to be for Busy Bee Yoga, busybeeyoga.com, and then Instagram and Facebook is going to be Busy Bee Yoga Studio. For Maganda Media Management, that's going to be magandamanagement.com, and then Maganda Media on Instagram.
Love it. Thank you so much, Katrina, for joining us today. Seriously, you are an inspiration. I'm still blown away by how young you are and how successful you've already been. I know there's huge things in store for you in your future and your brands. So truly honored to have you here today. Thank you again so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Another incredible interview in the books. I hope you all loved this episode just as much as I did. Before we close off, if you yourself are also a woman entrepreneur, please consider joining our women-owned small business directory on the Empowered by Women website. We are looking for product and service-based women-owned businesses based in the US to help us create the go-to place for communities to connect and support local women in business. All the details can be found at www.empoweredbywomen.com/apply-directory. That will be linked in the show notes below. Again, thank you all so much for tuning in with us today, and I'll see you on the next episode.